In 1986, pop singer Whitney Houston had a timeless #1 hit about rearing her current generation. But she was wrong. The greatest love isn't found inside of me alone. And in the New Testament, Jesus gives commands, instructions, and even gives warnings on how to bring up our children. The greatest love is actually found inside of Christ. As the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. This is especially true for those in the child care field. Not only have I worked in the child care industry, but I've also studied child psychology, and I'm also the mother of 5 children. So what better life education than a blended family with different needs? What and how we teach our children will grow them into the person that they become. Boundaries are important. Teenagers do not need the same amount of monitoring as a toddler, which is arguable. Boundary settings is equivalent to teaching right from wrong and applying that into their daily life. The textbook Child Growth and Development states that Proverbs 13:24 is a myth, which is spare the rod, spoil a child. This is the type of secularism that is plaguing our society. Children do need boundaries, just as adults need law. In a lawless land, crime is significantly higher and morality is lost. And this is exactly what Paul warns us about in 2 Thessalonians 2. The most important rule is consistency despite the age of the child. When children are away from their parents, they will rely on the guidelines that we have instilled in them at an early age. And when rules and guidelines have been consistent as a child, they haven't been consistent, they cannot be expected to respect the same rules when they get to a job or to school or in their own home. Instilling values and morals will aid these children later in life. Teaching children to trust us instills a trust in them for Christ. John 13:34-35's command is to love one another. Parents will hand over a child sometimes in a child care situation or scene that the child is scared and is screaming at the top of their lungs. Trust starts right here. How you react in this situation is key. Try to see this child through the eyes of Jesus. With older children, the same amount of love and trust is necessary. Just because children grow up and require less of us does not mean that they need less love. Giving of our time with open communication, listening, and hearing of what they say displays to our kids that they are valued and that their opinion matters. It gives them a self-confidence even. Age does not determine worthiness in our children. And in the kingdom of God, it doesn't matter what age they are. Children who grow up with love and with trust become adults with self-confidence and who are goal-oriented. Luke 17:2 says that each child is our responsibility collectively. We are to mold them and guide them and encourage them to do always what is right. Luke warns of teaching children to become worldly through their thoughts and actions. We are responsible to God for them. Ephesians 6 instructs parents not to provoke our children in anger so as not to break their spirit, but to bring them up in discipline and instruction of the Lord. Illustrating a Christ likeness to our children points them to the grace of God. Michelle Honaker is the nursery manager at a local church, and she says is the most important biblical role of any adult to a child is the responsibility to lead them to a place that they can follow Jesus. So what can we learn from the children? Matthew 18, Jesus was asked by his disciples, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus said, in order to become we need to become like children in order to reach the kingdom of heaven. But how do we do that? We learn from these children how to talk to God in prayer, how we can dance freely in our worship of him, and how to have unadulterated faith in goodness and in God. Become like these little ones and sit at the feet of Jesus, just as they sit at our feet during story time. As someone who works with children, we maintain a responsibility not only to the child and to their parents, but also to God. The youth are our future, and without a proper structured and disciplined environment and boundaries, they will be lacking in morals as well as manners. There will be times when we think we are doing all the teaching, but in fact it is us who is doing the learning. Wes Stanford, president of Compassion International, said every child you encounter is a divine appointment. Although Whitney Houston was correct in that our children are our future, we must ensure that we are modeling Christ so that these children recognize the greatest love of all is He that is in us.